most of the time I would be listening only so that I can grab some key learnings and key takeaways that I can take back home, right? Because me being on the other side of the table and you all being on the other side of the table, there is a lot of learning that needs to be passed on from that side to this side so that we can evolve better, right? And we can keep a track of all the cultural fitment which needs to be done within our CRM also. Not talking about this data-driven marketing. This is again a broader aspect that we will be talking about. It's a broader topic also that needs to be talked upon. So I think this topic, I'll start with Hiren sir only, right? Because Adani University is one part, but Adani has been into multiple facets and industries altogether. So first of all, how is your overall exposure from corporate to education? That is again one lethal combination. Second is the part that in terms of you, if I would ask, that brand positioning plays a super important role. So how do you overcome the challenges in terms of whenever it comes to content marketing or in terms of marketing, campaign marketing? How do you overcome the challenges for positioning in mind?
Thank you, Faiz, and thank you, Meritto, for organizing this. I believe this sort of platforms and this sort of forums are definitely required. So thank you for contextualizing your question. So I have very few opening remarks here, a couple of things to share. The first thing is, you very rightly said, we do have our parent organization as Adani Group being there for the university. That is one aspect of it, may be looked at that way. However, the university would always operate on its own vision. University would always operate on the ways in which the university like to position itself. So at Adani University, when you say how exactly do you focus on the segmentation, how exactly do you focus on the brand positioning of the university, I probably would like to say that Adani as a university would always be continuing to focus on the niche areas, very specialized areas. Many of you sitting here in this hall would probably remember the earlier days of the institution that we used to run, which was again focusing on infrastructure management as a core discipline. So from there, slowly and gradually, we had our own learning curve of understanding what academics is, of understanding what education, training, research related aspects are. From there on, the journey began of building this entire educational initiatives from the house of Adani into a platform called Adani University. So the vision of the university would continue to remain in the sectoral specific programs, niche programs. That is exactly where we find ourselves positioned. We also find ourselves committed to that zone because as a country, as a continent, we continue to be focusing at least for the next half a century on building the infrastructure, ensuring energy efficiency of our own nation for overall socio-economic developments, etc. So the university's overall vision will continue to focus on infrastructure, energy, technology, because technology is something which will cut across. You cannot now operate any of the businesses, even micro operations, without automation or the integration of technology, as well as the digital applications of technology into healthcare, into social aspects of the society, etc., etc. So from the brand positioning point of view, this is exactly where we would like to position ourselves, that it will continue to remain a sector-specific and a niche university. So,
I think great. And I think the same question goes to you also, ma'am, representing the same similar pattern of it, university also. So what are the challenges that you face and what do you do in order to overcome those challenges?
Thank you, Faiz. Again, as Sir mentioned, thank you so much. There have been a lot of learnings already for me and my team from this. Now, talking about our brand positioning, yes, we are also a very niche brand, you can say, where on one hand, where we place a lot of emphasis on value-based education and, helping the student to be on the inner journey, but we are also very much focused on tech. So we offer very diverse programs, but one of our very niche programs happens to be hospitality or hotel management, considering the owners come from that particular field, and the offerings that we have in that program are again very lucrative if you see from point of view of the student. So tech is one thing that is through which we are trying to brand ourselves differently. AI, courses in AI, application of AI, multidisciplinary use of all that. That is one of the positioning aspects as far as our various programs and various schools are concerned. Talking about the challenges, for any private university happens to be very similar, right? That enrollments, like how we can use the data to increase the enrollments and reduce the cost. So when I sit across with my CFO and talk to him about this is what we have done as far as positioning is concerned, this is what we have done about branding is concerned, he says that ultimately, what about the enrollments, the numbers? So I guess that is a evolving challenge if I want to associate it with the with the way you have branded your event. Thank you.
Great. I think over to you, Vishal.
Great, thank you, Faiz. So before I open, it's a nostalgia to be a part of Evolve and meeting a lot of people that we have connected so far and all the colleagues here. Talking about Narayana Business School, one case study in itself is that NBS has been founded by academicians. Dr. Purvi Gupta and Dr. Amit Gupta, both of them being an academicians, and building the institution by themselves has brought in a lot of culture, which is very academics and student centric. And what better example? I'm sitting here. I'm an alumni of the same college, and I'm representing the same college. That's the true example, I would say. A lot of our people who we work along with are also alumni, and so a lot of student-centric focus is there in the business school. Another thing that we focus on is because it has been more student-centric, so definitely students are more related to placements and stuff. So we ensure that we bring industry practices to our institution, and in fact, that's the reason the growth and strategic part is being led by somebody who has worked for corporate and not had any academic background. So we have more than 35% of our people coming from corporates, and luckily AICT has given this provision of professor of practice to bring people from industry to academics, and that is helping a lot for the vision and the philosophy that we believe in, that we should be creating courses and delivering programs which are more outcome oriented and more corporate focused that way. So these are two areas and one example, if I say so. Example, recently last year, we achieved a milestone of 100% digitizing all our processes that happens, be it admissions, academics, finance, placements, alumni, everything. We have close to 7 partners that we work with, and each of them have digitized the entire process. And the next year's goal is to consolidate all these data points into one and then create a dashboard and give it to each stakeholders to make decision. That kind of approach that we are able to bring into the institution, the students are getting direct exposure to that. Now when they go to corporate, they already know what is the importance of process. They already know what is the importance of technology. They already know importance of being organized in their way. So experiential learning की जो हम बात करते हैं, वो हम we are trying to deliver it in these manners. And lastly, the another key initiative that we took at NBS was to focus on diversity. People are going international, but what I would like to highlight is, are we yet all state done or not? So before going global, it's very important to be connected in all the domestic. So if you are representing people across India, that's where you'll be able to represent India better. If we haven't done that so far, I think going global would not make a lot of sense. Because when students come from international to your institution, they would expect the India culture. And if you don't have people representing different states of India, that's where we lose on to provide the best experience and understanding in terms of education. So at Narayana Business School, we have more than 65% of our students coming from out of Gujarat. That's the focus, including Andaman Nicobar. जो कई बार भूल जाते हैं कि Andaman Nicobar is also a part of India. So we have a lot of students coming from these people. So we focus a lot on diversity. So all of these combined things, Faiz, I would say that this is what we're trying to do at NBS. These are some unique highlights that I want to talk, and later I'll join the panel discussion. Thank you.
You also shed some light
Thank you, Faiz. The story remain the same. The objectives of the private universities remain the same. But yes, what differs is the what values you carry in your institutions. Unlike the others, I would say that we have a legacy of being a philanthropic trust uh, over the past 80 years. Right, so the legacy we carry is like we are there to serve for the students, for the society, and whatever we do, that comes first in overall. So the trust which manage our university, Sakachan Patel University, is 80 years old, and its core values are into two domains. The one is education and second is the healthcare. And currently we at universities has combined both. We are into education and health education too, right? So it remains the same. But when we talk about the student and attracting them or enrolling them, so we should not look about just an absolute number that we need 3,000 students or 5,000 students this year to be enrolled. We much have to go into the detail and see what kind of student you need, what diversity, as just Vishal sir has told, what diversity of student you need, what background of the students you need, from which kind of academic performances or the brackets you want to attract the students. So you have to much detail you need together and you have to work upon the same. Otherwise, the things are there. See, we are one of the universities of very few or the only in the state of Gujarat who offers all the courses, medical, technical, paramedical, including dental science and MBBS in a single campus, right? So having these, we have to tackle a diversity of the students from different backgrounds, and we have to cater them and retain them also. The most important thing is we always talk about, and the basic objective of this our gathering is that only to discuss about how to get more and more students and about the enrollments. But we have to go beyond the enrollment process even. We have to think about to engage them after the enrollments also and to retain them and to make them the prospective or loyal students of the universities who will be in the next year or the coming years, they are going to do a marketing for the university. Because you see, there are a lot of universities who are facing a dropout cases. They are enrolling at 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 students a year, and that dropouts for the first semester itself goes up to double digit, right? So we have to focus on our marketing campaigns or our promises in such a way that that expectation of the student actually meets to the reality. So when they come on board to your campus, they see, okay, whatever I've expected, it is there. Otherwise, the dropout would be there. So overall, everything, if I sum up, so we have to be very objective. We have to be very specific in communication with the students, and how to sustain that throughout their journey with the university.
No, I think sir rightly said. Right, post-admission cycle is also equally important, which plays a super important role in terms of their career approach and a lot of other things too, in terms of their overall life also in terms of the kind of exposure that the students would be getting. Depends on the kind of exposure that you give them at your institute. So now we spoke about the brand positioning, right? So there are two sides of marketing. One was definitely the brand positioning. Now, after you have done the brand positioning, and in terms of admissions, if I would ask, what are the key initiatives and strategies that you do or you measure once you have gathered the data in your institute and you have to nurture them or you have to engage with those particular students in order to give a glimpse of your particular university status, or maybe in terms of what you have been doing at the university or what type of courses you have been running or what is the USP of the universities, right? So what in terms of that particular context you communicate with the student?
Yes, I would like to start with this. It is not only that whatever the data we have gathered about the students and we are going to show them our UST. Instead, what I believe is we should think about what do they need, what they desire, what they expect from the university. Why not to communicate the same thing to them? Okay, whatever you are expecting, it is there, and for that you need to go detail about the collect the data about the from the key matrices. Say, I would say that when I check my enrollment data of last 3 years, then I would come to the conclusion, okay, my 90% of students are from Gujarat, right, and 70% of there are from the 6 districts of the Gujarat. then I have to devise a plan, devise a communication channel in a way that I reach to them, I clarify my objectives, I communicate with them that what I'm going to offer, and at the end when they come, when they onboard to the universities, when they enroll and they start attending the campus, my job is to make them feel whatever we have committed. Right, the university, every aspect, even the teacher or it's a mentor or even the seniors in the classrooms, they have to just be inculcated with the culture or the core values of the institute right from the very first day. Thank you.
So very good point, in fact, what I can say is, in terms of communication, what as universities should understand, or institutions rather, higher education institutions should largely understand is that the profiling of the people with which we are dealing with, starting from undergraduation to post-graduation, that age group is very smart. That's an age group which is from 17, 17 and a half, 18 years of age, up to 24, 25, 26 years of an age. A lot of postgraduate programs, people would like to take some 2, 3, 5 years of an experience and then come back to the classroom for a postgraduate. For example, that we see in MTech or in MBA, etc. So the kind of age group that we are dealing with is a smart age group, is an intelligent age group. They have multiple sources of information. Precisely what I'm coming at is you don't want to and you cannot bluff them. They won't call the bluff very easily. So from the communication point of view, from the strategic communication point of view, the most hygiene factor today is authenticity in your communication, integrity in the intent, and credibility of the content. These three things, in case if they are there in your communication, I don't think going forward, the conversion or the retention or the engagement in the entire process would be major of a challenge. It is a slow journey. We know it's a very competitive market, a very highly competitive market. The universe is limited. The pool of students opting for a particular course is always going to be limited. We know that. What you can do is you can either open a few other markets horizontally, you can go vertically, you can expand in some other ways, etc., etc. But this market will continue to be competitive, especially for higher education institutions. And there are other, regulatory issues, the positioning related issues, etc., etc. This forum may not be the right forum for that. But if we only talk about from the communication angle, if these three things are in place, I believe having said that, even if it's a longer journey, I think it pays off. Eventually it pays off. I have seen, may not have very credible numbers, but then we keep interacting with a lot of people. The student acquisition cost in many cases, if you average it out, happens to be about more than say 20% in many cases of the total top line. So that's a very, very interesting number, at the same time a very worrisome number also. Because when you have 1/5 or 1/4 of your overall top line being spent on the acquisition of a particular student, then what exactly are we doing? Because, see what can happen is you cannot spend more on ensuring the experience of the students in the life cycle in the institution. So there is always going to be pressure on the numbers, etc., etc. So slowly and gradually, I believe, and how we can compare is with good institutions across nationally, internationally, etc. It may be a very long shot, but then the student acquisition cost per se should ideally not be more than 8 to 10% of the overall top line. That will give you a lot of leeway, a lot of headroom, legroom, etc. to spend more on ensuring the experience during the campus life, so that eventually they become the brand ambassadors of the institution going forward, etc. That pays off in a much more different way. So that is something which we feel from the marketing campaigns point of view, positioning. I'm taking just maybe 30 seconds more. From the positioning point of view, what we generally believe and what we implement is that we pinpoint the target markets in a very peculiar way. And as an institution, I do not believe that to kill a fly, we should bring out a bazooka. So what is needed to be done is exactly what we need to do. You don't want to spread yourself thin. So that's what I have to say on this.
Great. I think I'm taking a lot of new takeaways from this particular statement. Don't bring out the killer fly. What you have done, but I think I'm going to add one more thing to this particular topic, because you coming from a B school, right? modular have a different pool of students, right? Which, because you particularly are working with a B school, right? So the kind of students that are coming to you in terms of brand positioning or in terms of engaging those particular students, right? What are the measures that you are taking in order to give them the right exposure also, communicating the right exposure also? Because whenever, I mean, anyone is choosing for a B school, one portion of his educational career has already been gone in the graduation time. So coming to a B school, like definitely most of the students are always looking for, let's say, 60% of the academics and 40% of the exposure to the practical exposure. So how do you manage to give that kind of exposure, or in terms of communicating or engaging with the student?
Thanks, Faiz. I think, and thanks for pointing that question out to me, because that's one of the passion that I drive. Very, very important is this, as I said, and I'll share two initiatives. So a lot has been spoken about how do you do good engagement campaigns, and a lot of automation stuff can be used, but I'll focus on how do we talk to our students and how do we attract them. And keeping students in the center of the universe is what the initiative that we. So example, somebody already in the last panels talked about this, that you have to keep students at the center. So how do I ensure? So we have this word in our campus: our people, our brand, right? As I said again, I'm representing the brand, and I'm the our people. So I belong to NBS, and that's where I brand. So we have some clubs. So example, student clubs. So we have more than 15 active clubs which are which are active, and they do all the activities within the campus. We have gone a long way to curate these clubs. It took us some time, but eventually we curated these clubs who are now running the show. So whatever happens within the campus is being put onto a social media platform or LinkedIn platform. Example, so this social media, so we did it in a small experiment. We had this official Instagram page which was run by us, an agency, and we said that a lot of things are happening by the student. Let them talk to others, let them put them so that others who are absent and not in the campus should know what happened in the campus today. So this is the thought that we started with. So now these students took up this, and everything that happens within the campus, the social media committee comes up, captures it, and put it on the social media. Now this page, which was official page, was not getting so much of traction, because there we used to do the typical kind of marketings, right? You would put some creatives or put some campaigns, admissions open or placements or whatever like. But this particular page, which is NBS World, the students were sharing what they were experiencing here. Now this became a huge, so now whenever any student goes, so रिसर्च ऑनलाइन परचेज ऑफलाइन वाला कंसेप्ट रहता है कि हर बच्चा डिसीजन लेने से पहले रिसर्च तो करता ही है जाके ऑनलाइन. नाउ व्हेन ही सर्चेस अस एंड ही वांट्स टू एक्सपीरियंस व्हाट इट इज गोइंग ऑन इन एनपीएस, he lands onto this Instagram page and he sees the entire life what is being nurtured in the campus. This is authenticity that he was talking about. That rather me telling, okay, we have so many people coming from corporates to deliver campus, now they are saying, okay, there's a CII event tomorrow, right? Or so and so came yesterday and he's seeing the footages of those things. Now he believes trust in that. We went to the placement cell and said that why don't you interview those people who are placed and put up that on the social media. So in that practice, they are themselves a part of experiential learning. The junior is listening from the senior what helped him got placed. Now he is 1 year ahead in advance, curious that what will I answer during my time. कल जब मैं प्लेस हो जाऊंगा तो मैं आके इस इंटरव्यू में क्या बोलूंगा. While we are training the student, in this process the student is learning. At the same time, he is also helping attract the next person who will carry on his lineage. This is, I think, what we are doing, and this is what we are loving to do. Bringing people at the center, curating content around them only. We are ensuring that we give them the right exposure, and then they carry on the things to other. This is one unique thing that I have. While a lot of amazing things are being done by a lot of other people, but this is something stands unique to us. Our people, our brand, and majorly students are the face of what we want to talk to the other. Even in our admission process, there is a point where student comes and interviews the next student. So that is something that we really take proud of. That's what I would like to share. Thank you.
lot of insights from there actually. So talking about communication, I would say that when you are communicating with a new enrollment or possible lead, then there are 3 stages. The first stage happens to be the awareness. At that time, the smart generation is actually looking for, what is it in there for him or her, right? So they will go through the website, they will go through the blogs, which are probably curated by the faculty members themselves, or maybe from the placement cell, as Sir mentioned. The second stage would be consideration. Like, if the candidate is looking for a particular program or considering either of the program of the university which is being offered, doesn't interest him. So at the program level, how to get the interest of, how to get student interested in that. So that is the time when the student would look at the social media, find out about what is the life at the university, what the alumni are speaking, because alumni create an aspiration for the student. The students start looking at them that, okay, 1 year down the line or 2 years down the line, that is what probably I also would be. The third happens to be after awareness, after consideration, the third happens to be the decision, right? So, having a set of FAQs, keeping the counselors ready as to, based on their experience, what could be the questions that could be coming from the candidate, and also, when the candidate comes for the admission process, he doesn't come alone. He comes with his entire family. Sometimes he comes up with a set of friends, right? So the counselor has to be prepared accordingly that way, right? These are 3 things which I would say which are key as far as our communication has to be there, and our communication has to be channelized at each level, at the awareness level, at the consideration level, as well as at the decision level. So whatever are the initiatives that we are taking, whether it is, as I mentioned, blogs, or whether it is social media engagement, whether on Instagram or LinkedIn or any other, nowadays like this Quora and Reddit, and all of that, and much more of that than what we can know, what the students know. And finally, at the decision making, where it is, at least for an undergraduate program, it is not the candidate's decision alone. And finally, it is also the timing, right? What is the timing at which the student is engaging with that communication, right? Is he still in school and he's just trying to make up his mind, or is he at very close to, when the admission cycle is getting over? So the entire communication, of course, as my very learned panelists have said, that it has to be very personalized, it has to be very engaging, but at the same time, we have to, as a marketing team, we have to have very strategic considerations when we are putting out that communication at different stages. And I feel that if we are able to map these things, if we are able to match these things, then our communication becomes much more effective.
I think all 3 points that you highlighted makes the difference here, right? And definitely more than the reactive communications, I think proactive communication plays a super important role. Now coming to the point, see, marketing, the word looks fancy, but comes up with a heavy cost, right? So how in terms of, let's say I'll start with you, Hiren sir, for this, right? So marketing definitely comes up with a hefty cost altogether. So what in terms of calculating or measuring the ROI, which makes a big difference. So how do you calculate, what measures are being taken in order to map the ROI of those particular marketing spends?
So many a times as an institution, just like a student would probably be interested in the ROI, a student would also be interested in knowing his own ROI or her own ROI. I'm paying X amount of fees, what's the Y number of placements I'm going to receive, the package, etc. I think we as an institutions are also quite fixated with ROIs, from the marketing point of view. I would like to again emphasize on the last letter I, which is investment. So I think it's an investment into the journey, overall in the life of an institution, I would call it. It's not something which is like an instant gratification in today's 30-second reel world. You are not going to be getting that sort of output from the kind of investments you're making. but I would call it a very optimum and a very optimally designed campaigns would eventually give you results, maybe in a couple of quarters, effectively, in terms of your targeted enrollments, in terms of the quality benchmarks that you have put in for your various programs of the institutions, etc. But it's a long-term plan that you have to have in mind. Maybe a 5-year plan to begin with. You break it down into milestones of 1 year, 3 year, etc. And then focus on where exactly do you want to take the institution, because a very important onus on and I always call the marketing teams of institutions as frontline warriors. Because you are the people who are going to be going into the vanguard and fighting the battle. The finance and the auditors are generally going to come after the battle is over to do the body count. So the technically, you have to be that front face of the organization. You are going to be communicating with the outside world. You are the face of the organization, spokespersons of the organization. That is exactly where you have to focus. In building the right content for it, so that the content gets traction. What you are communicating is important for a student to eventually know, without, rather, I would call it, you say it like it is, without trying to be too, soft on it or maybe sugarcoating it. But then investment is something which is long term in my mind, honestly. And because institutions are not built for a decade or half a decade. Institutions are built for decades together, and they also take time to build. Sometimes they take decades to build, and the legacy is something that is going to remain. Even today, probably, as Vishal was also mentioning, he considers himself to be a very proud alumni of his own organization. So that is the kind of investment we should be looking at. So that is the kind of investment we should be looking at. That is the kind of ROI that we are building, and then are going to be getting going forward. That our people are going to be the brand ambassadors. Our people maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the line will again come back to the campus to recruit their juniors, to recruit the people from their alma mater. We should be engaging into multiple stakeholder related relations, etc. So I think that is the kind of investment, that is a little longer vision that should be there across the board in the institutions, that eventually will percolate down to the marketing teams also, and that is from the point where we start calculating the returns on it. That is my overall understanding of this.
My views are also parallel to what Hiren Bhai said. See, in academics, we do not measure ROI for a particular campaign, and we shall not, right? Because it is rightly said, you never know that in what terms the investment would come back. You'll get a return, right? I would just share one of the example. Recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we had one alumni from our school, right? He was studying in our school 40 years back. He just came to visit the university. He said, I was studying the Northern school 40 years back, and in 10th, 11th, 12th, I was there, and all those things. And thus, while he was going, he said, I just came across the various activities you are doing, various camps you are doing for the patients, for the health checkup camps in the villages, rural areas, many activities you are doing for your students and all. And I came across to that, and I thought I shall also contribute, and he has just donated 10 lakh rupees to that. Now 10 lakh rupees is not my return, but the alumni of the school, at that time none of our higher education institute was functioning in the trust, right? He came back and became a strong pillar, and he is now going somewhere, and he's spreading a good words for my university. That is what the return. Now that return I got after 40 years. Right, so you never judge ROI for a particular campaign like we do in FMCG or so. Though the marketing companies would say, or media agencies would always tell you that, sir, this campaign would get so much impressions and reach, and you will get so much enrollments and all those things. But it never happens in academics. We have to be very clear. Right, in academics, we have to have a long-term view, and the ROI never we consider in terms of finance only. Though the finance happens to be a backbone of all the activities we do, but it should not be measured, at least in education.
So I think giving a different direction to this particular question for you, Vishal sir, right? So yes, I'm sure there are a lot of sources also that you have been working with in order to generate the optimizing marketing campaigns, or in order to get the leads or the inquiries into the system, so that you can consider
True. Very valid question, Faiz, because every year when you start the cycle, you have to decide who you will work with, who you will not, and how what is the budget and how you're going to allocate the budget. That's every year, a hard decision to take. And I'm glad that it's been 4 years that we had been using the system and through which we were able to identify, okay, which are the sources who are performing better and to what. Obviously, we had to do a lot exercise on calculating CAC and other stuff. From the accounts team, we had to do a lot of कि खर्चे बताओ, total खर्चे मिलाओ और फिर इसको इस तरीके से accounting करो, because and also my finance team was not ready for it internally because it was a huge exercise to be done. So literally had to convince the finance team that you'll have to shell out some extra time and calculate a CAC for us. You know what is the cost? Because as usual, this is the philosophy of the education institution, and I totally bow down to that, because अगर वो इतना infinite नहीं सोचेंगे तो हम ये सब चीजें नहीं कर पाएंगे, very frankly. So infinite thought process तो चाहिए ही, but at the same day, for people like us who are here to optimize things, who are here for strategizing things, we will have to take some initiatives which focus on short-term achievements and other things as well. So वहाँ पे we did that exercise and figured out, okay, this is the cost of acquisition that we are dealing with. Now let me go ahead and see कि अच्छा publishers हैं तो उनकी मेरी क्या क्या पड़ रही है, मेरा सोशल मीडिया पे मैं जो स्पेंड कर रहा हूँ इनऑर्गेनिक कैंपेन पे, उस पे मेरा क्या 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 हो रहा है, व्हाट इज माय एवरेज कैक इन, कहाँ पे मुझे और ज्यादा इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, कहाँ मुझे नहीं करना चाहिए. That's one interesting obviously exercise that we went. Obviously we took some time to figure out that, as I said, it was not possible so easily. We had to do a lot of exercise around this and then figure it out. Another very interesting area that we started looking at is organic brand pull versus the inorganic thing. Because ROI कैलकुलेट करने में सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है कि आप कितनी चीजों को कंसिडरेशन में ले रहे हो. Sometimes you don't factor in some expenses that you are doing and you almost kind of lead that's a misleading number. So for us, example, people who were just running our social media, for them it was that, okay, you are not doing an inorganic campaign, but you are running on social media. Tell me how many organically you have brought in the people from that social media, and obviously if you do some go extra mile and put a UTM campaign on your social media handles and everywhere, you will be able to figure it out कि आपके Instagram से या LinkedIn से चल के कितने लोग आए हैं. Thanks to the campaign manager dashboard that we have at Meritto, that tells you very categorically that, okay, from your Instagram account, these many people clicked on your profile and came to this. Similarly, when you put any LinkedIn post, it's a mandate कि आप एडमिशन की LinkedIn पोस्ट कर रहे हो तो उसमें UTM के साथ ही डालो कि जब भी वो बच्चा क्लिक कर रहा है. बिकॉज एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल है, बहुत सारे लोग एडमिशन का स्टेटस व्हाट्सएप पे रखते हैं एग्जांपल, बट उसके नीचे लिंक नहीं रखते. अच्छा, लिंक रखते भी हैं तो उसमें UTM नहीं होता है. तो डिस्पाइट पीपल somebody saw that status and clicked on that and registered, you don't know that it came via WhatsApp activity that you did. In fact, while I was talking to a lot of our consulting partners, this is small change and they were able to figure out it's organic. Maybe मेरे WhatsApp status रखने से मुझे इतने लोगों का फॉर्म भर के आया. Okay, because I have to bring in diversity. So I have to look at such numbers, such sources who are contributing to कि इस source से इस state के लोग ज़्यादा आ रहे हैं. Publishers are able to reap in student from this region of the country, and hence I want to invest more on them. That's kind of thing that helps us to take decisions, and a lot of this is possible because of this campaign manager thing, mutually exclusive and primary, secondary, and tertiary stuff that we use it. Thanks to that.
Just one thing in this. I think it's very important because what happens is, apart from being in a two-way communication, the retentivity aspect of it is very huge. And it also gives you some sort of a leeway to do the course corrections also. In middle of the campaign. So when you know the geographical spread of the enrollment, etc., I think that course correction is something which is very important. For
the same question which I asked.
So, I mean, both the things have to be balanced. On one hand, what Sir mentioned was the fact that we have to keep our costs optimized, whether we call it the cost of acquisition or the per enrollment cost, and keeping it as simple as possible to even a cost per click, right? So those metrics are very important on one hand, but on the other hand, for example, at Oro University, our core idea is to build learners to leaders. Leaders can't be built in 3 years, or leaders can't be built in 5 years. Okay, so there's a lot of importance which we are based on integral education and the principles of integral education, where we believe that learning is lifelong, right? And if I bring in NEP and the perspective of NEP again over here, then I think lifelong learning is what we are looking at. So it's a much larger horizon on at which we are trying to understand that what will be the return on investment, and that investment happens to be the monetary as well as the non-monetary aspect of what we are trying to build. And as institutions, we are in the process of nation building. So, attaching this whole thing to ROI is, as I already mentioned, it's a very short-term goal, and we are looking at much long-term goals.
I think you have covered both the aspects here. Thank you so much. Right. So I think it's really time, but yes, I think I'm not going to leave you like this. But yes, I would like to have some more key takeaways from you guys, from all of you actually. Right. So tell me 2 data points or 2 challenges, because see, to be very honest, we all know that education landscape is growing or evolving at a very fast pace. Right. So there were a lot of traditional approaches also which were kept earlier. Now maybe there has been some changes which has come definitely, and there would be a drastic change which is about to come now to keeping the standards or keeping in hand with the kind of technology that has been growing day in day out. So what are 2 challenges and 2 data points that you keep in mind while measuring the effectiveness of any campaigns? And when I say campaigns, it is not only the marketing campaigns that you might be running, but it could be the offline or go Google way or any sort of decision making that is being done at your institution. So 2 challenges and 2 data points.
So yes, the number one challenge is keeping pace with the student, right? Because student centricity, as sir also mentioned, happens to be the core of every institutional initiative, right? So keeping pace with the requirement of the student, which probably the student also doesn't, right? So this whole thing about unlearning and relearning, this is one of the biggest challenges, because given the tech that you have, even as, I mean, all of us are probably having eons of experience, we are very experienced, but then still sitting on at this platform, we are learners, right? So this is the second challenge that I would say, that uncertainty of the future and the way tech is changing the entire landscape. These are the 2 challenges. But then at the same time, the 2 data points that we have is, as I already mentioned, that we have to cater to the students so that we can be agile as well as resilient to this uncertainty that is going to come. So that's the small thing what I understand.
I'll take 2 points one is academics and one is related to a marketer. As an academics point of view, the biggest struggle is to get student be as serious as we are about them. So what happens is, of course, we while we recruit people, we look for aspiration, because the student profile that we deal is a specific. Though I'll not describe, we're not yet describing the profile of the student that we, but typically telling that we look for aspirational people who are having a lot of potential, but they haven't cracked it yet, and that's what we want. Typically to cater to the entry level executive and the middle management profile that corporate needs. Now when these people come, most of them would say कि सर bachelor's तो हमारा ऐसे ही निकल गया, मतलब हंसते खेलते और bachelor life जीते हुए. Now in 2 years you have to make them placement worthy, and in that he expects to also get a good college life, good co-curricular activity, and then 3 to 4 months of internship and whatnot. And unfortunately, prior to this last year, we didn't had hostel. So we did to, so it's like 10 to 4:30 all the time you have for them, and then they would want to rush back to their home and stuff. Luckily, we have introduced hostels now. We have made plans to engage them after 4:30 also till midnight. To do that now. Certainly, you have a better role, but the students sometimes I feel are not as serious about their career as an institution, and that's one challenge. कि कर लो इंडस्ट्री एंगेजमेंट इतने अच्छे प्रोफेसर्स इतने अच्छे speakers बुला रहे हैं but sometimes their priority is on a very different thing. Sometimes they don't so yes, that's one challenge probably, that because they are looking for instant gratification, वो placement के time पे serious हो जाएंगे या फिर but sometimes they don't get serious into a lot of activity, so a lot of disciplinary actions, and बहुत सारे लोग कर पाए हैं through a period of time, but we're figuring out that how to buy more time and how so that they can invest more time. That's an academic challenge we are sailing through. Second, from the marketer point of view, one thing that you mentioned, that how do you track good engagement, and so for me, when we started creating this content, uh, one of the student platform which created the reel had 10.2 million reach, right? And तो and उससे पहले भी कई बार ऐसे हुआ है कि they had got good number of likes and comments and stuff. But what is the watch time? So any marketing is only as good as it engages the audience. How much are you compelling them to engage with you in the content? That's one of the parameter that is what we are focusing on. That whenever we create any content, we have very recently 1.5 years back, we have started to focus on YouTube. Now, what is the average watch time that my YouTube people are consuming? Even to these people when they started creating this Instagram, तो बहुत सारा फन कंटेंट बनाते थे जो ऑब्वियसली एंगेज काफी करता था, बच्चों को अट्रैक्ट भी काफी करता था. बट आई सेड ऑल्सो बट इट इज डिफिकल्ट टू क्रिएट एजुकेशनल कंटेंट. सो एजुकेशनल एंड फन दोनों कैसे क्रिएट करोगे, एंड उसका वॉच टाइम कैसे बढ़ाओगे, कैसे वो देखेगा कि अच्छा यहाँ पे पढ़ाई भी हो रही है, लर्निंग बाय डूइंग हो रहा है. हाउ डू यू शोकेस दैट टू, एंड व्हाट इज द वॉच, how do you engage such people? So we started to look at those data. That is also something that I think that has become important to our engagement and mission marketing stuff. These are two unique things. A lot has been already spoken, so I would not repeat that. Yeah.
See, I mean, performance marketing and data-driven marketing are tools, very powerful tools, very effective tools, very highly personalized and highly engaging tools to a response, real-time response, etc. The only thing that I feel probably we should be more careful is we need not be invasive. We need not be too invasive. We need not be too repetitive in the communications. That puts people off very easily. I mean, if I get 100 credit card calls in a day, I'll not be able to, entertain them. And on an average, I receive say about some 25 marketing emails in my mailbox. So that's something. I mean, we put ourselves in the shoes, and during the enrollment season, I think a student receives on an average about 100 institutions reaching out to them. So you have to be a little more careful. How do you actually cut the clutter? Be a little specific, etc., etc. So those things I feel are the challenges of performance marketing. That we tend to be, say maybe we want to be aggressive. That's okay. We need to be aggressive, but at the same time, we need not be invasive. We need not be repetitive. Absolutely. I mean, you put yourself in the. That I'm hinting at. I mean, just let us put ourselves in the shoes of the recipient of our communications, and then we'll probably understand the sensitivities around it. So that is something which is important, and of course, the student rigor and the academic rigor both go hand in hand. So that's got to happen. The students need to take themselves also a little more seriously. So that's what I would probably say on this.
The two challenges that I would say from the current campaigns or marketing activities or any data point. The first and foremost thing that in beginning we just use the word that we are tackling the smart generation. Actually, we have to accept they are not just smart; they are smarter than all of us. Right? They are smarter. So I would just give you an example. So, we have hired a best of the social media marketing agency, and whenever they come to my campus for designing a campaign, my team of marketing and academics sit with them, and for the whole day they do all exercises and design a campus. After a week, I get a response from my own house. My daughter says, "Papa, your social media." The days when we used to do a segmentation exercise segment, right? There are so much profiling we need to do. We need again rework about the backgrounds of the students, from where they come, why they come over here, why they are not going to the better places, why they are, even if they are scholars, why they are not going for some good scholarly institutions and going to somewhere to this. So what are the backgrounds and profiling? So segmentation, constantly updated segmented profile is again a challenge for current education institutes.
Great, sir. I think we'll wrap up this panel with one quick question, right? So, one quick question, you have to answer it in one word. So, when you read this subject, enhancing student engagement with data-driven marketing, what is the first thing that clicks your mind? I think I'll start with you, Iren, sir, because you have super catchy answers actually.
No, you only need to be innovative.
Over to you, sir.
You have to be relevant.
You have to be
Relevant.
relevant. Okay. Vishal, sir.
Has to be real time.
Real time.
So coming from Oro University, based on integral learning, I would say that I forgot my word.
The subject is enhancing student engagement with data-driven marketing.
You have to be empathetic.
So great. I think a lot of key takeaways for me, at least, right? Thank you so much for gracing this event with all your presence.